What's good, everybody? Welcome in to. Is this? This isn't the first, but
It
it's
is.
technically the first. The first episode of the Power 2 podcast, solely and only on the Get Defensive Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Jordan. I'm here with my co host, DJ.
Oh my gosh. Hey, welcome. I'm so excited.
Yes, we are an independent enterprise once again.
Period. Love that for us. And today we're going to talk about the power of a good chocolate chip cookie. I had the best chocolate chip cookie of my life this week. This is
Tell me
just
about it.
random thoughts. Sorry. But I went to, our president is no longer our president at SMU. He has concluded his 30-year tenure at SMU, and we will be welcoming our new president in June. So we had like this farewell event for him, and they were serving the best chocolate chip cookies I've ever had. Like crunchy on the outside, soft on the inside, just a hair. Like it might be a little underbaked, but not in a bad way. Oh, so good.
Interesting. I believe you because you bake.
Yes, I do. I do. Don't tell everybody
Uh,
what you just did. So,
well, too late.
anyway, yes,
You don't
I've had
want you
chocolate
don't
chip
want
cookie.
support. You don't want support of your business.
No. I'm gonna
Fair
be honest.
enough.
No. Thank you
Fair
all so
enough.
much. I only bake by request. It is not like an open free for all situation.
Well, what can you do? I tried.
You did. Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, so we are here. As you're listening to this, it is not Mother's Day, but as we are recording, it is Mother's Day. So we must start with a shout out to all the mothers and all the soon to be mothers. And yeah,
All the
happy Mother's
surrogate
Day.
mothers and all of the stepmothers and all of the mothers who are adoptive mothers. Everybody who's a mother. Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah. Oh man, I lost my joke. What
Wow.
is the because I can't remember. I can't remember the thing that stepdads do. I'm not the father who blank. I'm the father that stepped up. But I can't remember the blank, so then
I
it
think
messed up
it's
my
I'm not the
joke.
father who left. I'm not the father who stepped out. I'm the father who stepped up, or something like that. Yeah,
Okay, maybe that's
something
not the
like
one I've
that.
seen because I've seen one that's more catchy than that. But I was gonna say shout out to the mothers who stepped in, not the who stepped up, not stepped out. It doesn't matter. Shout out to all
It's
the mothers on Mother's Day.
shout out to you. Love you all. Love my mommy specifically. Happy Mother's Day, mommy.
Yes. So we are here and we have some news.
We do.
So we are going to go through the news very quickly, quicker than normal. And the reason why is this is a WNBA show today. And I don't know if you paid attention to this. And I wasn't going to text you because in case you didn't, I wanted to say it on the show. We are talking about the WNBA on Mother's Day. And there are mothers in the WNBA. You know where
There
there are
are.
not mothers? There are not mothers on the college football field. So today is not a college football episode. We have a couple pieces of news, but then we're going to get to the mothers in the WNBA. So starting with the news, the first thing, which will be extra quick because there's going to be, if this comes to pass, there's going to be a million things that comes out of this. And also, I imagine that some people are tired of talking about this. So
Yes.
as of recently, 2 days ago, also on your end, I'm not going anywhere because the other ones are longer. Um, as of 2 days ago, there was a report that the 16 team college football playoff bracket is gaining support in the Big Ten and the SEC. If you remember, for a while we were thinking 14. I am still pro 14 because if you do 14, you still have two teams that get a bye. If you
Yes.
do 16, you either stay with four buys or no one gets a bye, which I just think is really awkward. I also think 16 is a lot. Like, I'm not going to complain again when there's a sport of 130 teams. Like, yes, the one matchup for the 16 is probably going to be a blowout. I just really don't care that much. But I do think it's awkward where 14 you got the bye, but I think there may be going, and this is my adding, of course, when you say you think, you're talking about what you think. I think they're going to 16 maybe to appease the other teams because the other conferences because they're still trying to do the automatic bids. And
Oh,
with the
yeah.
with the automatic bids, the way it worked with 14, there was only one at large. So if there was a third good ACC team or a third good Big 12 team or something like that, they most likely weren't going to get in because everyone probably assumed that that last at large would just go to like Notre Dame or something like that. And so there weren't really additional spots. So the rumor is, and they have to agree on this eventually. Like they can't keep holding off. But the rumor is that what is currently gaining steam is a 16-team college football playoff bracket, which would include four SEC, four Big Ten, two ACC, two Big 12, one G5, and then three at-large spots, with one at-large spot almost always guaranteed to Notre Dame if they are having a good year. And by a good year, 10-2 and above.
Correct. What a time to be alive. I just think 16 teams is entirely too many. I don't really have a whole lot of logic. I just think it's too many.
Yeah.
I would just rather it be 14. I think
I,
12
I,
was a good way of showing that like there's an appetite for more, but I don't think jumping from 12 to 16 is the way to do that. Also, scheduling wise, like it's already hard enough like with the scheduling. So to add 16 to go up to 16, that's going to be a scheduling nightmare because you're going to be then running into the NFL season a little bit too much. Like I just don't feel like I don't think we need that much more. I just think if we're going to expand it, we should expand it to 14.
yeah, I think the argument is that if you do six, so going from so if my math is correctly, I don't think going 12, 14, or 16 adds an additional game.
I think
Because
it
if
does
you
because it's like a play-in type of vibe at that point because they were talking about that too, where it's like,
yeah, but that's separate. And that game already happened. Like that week already exists. The only thing with the play-in is that more teams would be playing because that's
oh, I
that's
mean,
the
okay,
conference that's the conference championship week. So that week already exists in the calendar. Like they're not adding a week. And then if you go to 14, all you're doing is instead of four teams with buys, you have two teams with buys. And if you go to 16, then no team has buys, but it's still the same number of rounds.
see, when I was speaking with um, the executive director of CFP, he spoke about how when they go to 16 teams, it would cause a scheduling issue. I'm not exactly sure what the scheduling issue is. I want to say it's like, even though it's still the same number of weeks, it would cause a scheduling issue
Well,
with the
because there's
NFL as
more
far as like
games.
time. Yeah, as far as like
Yeah.
timing and stuff.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't add additional weeks. So it doesn't go longer into the NFL season, but it adds scheduling issues because you have to place more games. And they
Around.
already were
Yeah.
having an issue, which is why the games run like Wednesday, Thursday, and like
Yeah.
weird things like that, because you have somewhere between 2 or 4 more games. So it is still a scheduling issue, but it's not a week issue, like it's going longer into the season.
Yeah.
But to that point, as we've said before you do any of this, they need to adjust the college football calendar. And there are people talking about that. Hopefully that comes at the same time. But at bare minimum, the college football calendar needs to be moved up 1 week, which is very doable. Um, they just haven't done it.
They just need to do it.
Yeah. And
That's it. I'm sorry. I thought I was going to say something. Never mind. Go ahead.
and so continuing sort of with this through line, because three pieces of our news all sort of go together in one way or another. ESPN is willing to pay up to $80 million more for a ninth SEC football game. Why does this relate to what we just talked about, and why does this matter? Uh, all of the real conferences play 9 conference games. The SEC is a fake conference because it doesn't. And they did not want to go to 9 because they're a fake conference and they were afraid that they would lose an additional game. So they sort of wanted 2 or 3 things to happen to go to 9. One, they wanted automatic bids to the playoffs because they were so afraid that they wouldn't get into the playoffs if they had to play one more tough little game. 2, they wanted ESPN to
I am
give them
so
more money.
tired.
And I think that was it. They wanted automatic bids because they wanted to make sure that they could get into the playoffs, and they wanted ESPN to give them more money because they were terrified if they had to play each other instead of their punching bag game in November that they wouldn't be successful.
So we just going to act like we
Um,
don't hear these sirens.
what do you want me to do about it? You know,
I just will.
um,
It was really loud. Sorry.
so
Also, I was just like, we're just going to keep sitting here. Like, that's not
yeah.
going on. Sorry. Go ahead.
So all of this sort of relates because if they get the automatic bids, then it will appease the scaredy cats who don't want to play a ninth conference game. Plus, ESPN. You keep rolling your eyes, but that literally is what it is.
I know. It's just the way you're
Half of
saying
them,
it.
because it's so childish. Because the
It
good
is.
teams don't care. like Alabama,
Oh,
Georgia,
I
the
agree.
SEC
Yeah.
commissioner, all of those people are like, fine. And then everyone else is like, oh no, but what happens if I lose an extra game? What happens if I don't go to a bowl game?
It's the
I
tone.
need my punching game against Western Divisional School that has a 2-11 record in November, so I can feel good about myself. It's just so stupid. And my thing is, I wouldn't care if they didn't also do the SEC like dominance thing. Like, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
it. Yeah, right. Like, I do not hate on the SEC that much because they are really good and they do win and all these other kind of things. But one of my biggest things with them is just like, you can't talk about how great and how dominant you are, and then in the same breath be afraid to play a ninth
A ninth
conference
game.
game because you
Yeah.
want to play insert directional school for an easy win. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
do you want to
Yeah.
compete or not?
Be dominant. If you're going to be dominant for real.
And
So,
prove it
yeah.
against the best. Prove it against
Yeah.
each other. If you are the best, then play the best. Stop paying $2 million so you can beat up on a team in November that's 2-9 when you played them.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
mean, I think that at the end of the day, the SEC is also about that bottom line. So they're probably going to go ahead and add it just to get that extra cash.
and honestly, their point is correct. Like, if you look at it as a business decision, their point is partially correct in that they the rumor was ESPN didn't want to pay, and so they said, all right, well, let's hold out
Yeah.
for the first year of Texas and Oklahoma so they can see how important these games are, and then they'll want to pay. And as a
Yeah.
business decision, that is what happened. The thing is, they didn't make this decision for business. They made it because literally half of the league was crying about losing because they wanted the revenue from the bowl game and these other things, and they were
Hmm.
afraid of what would happen if they lost another game. The money isn't because they need, because this is going to be, it's like $3 or $4 million a year.
Yeah.
It's like that doesn't make or break anyone in the SEC. It's just that they're greedy, and also if for one of these departments, if they did miss a bowl game, that's a couple $1 million they wouldn't get, and so that's sort of what it is. It wasn't like, oh, this is such a big business strategy. It was really to appease the Brokies because all the other good teams were fine with it. But it was like Mississippi State and South Carolina and
Not the
Kentucky and
Brokies.
Vanderbilt's and those ones that are crying over $2 or $3 million because they may have to play a real team in November instead of directional school. Speaking of playing a real team, Notre Dame and Clemson it
You're
has
just running
agreed
through all
to
the
a
news. I love
12
this for
year
you.
has agreed to a 12-year scheduling partnership. This again is done both for money and the playoff. The ACC is falling behind everyone. One of the things that they decided to do is they've agreed to play the big brands more in hopes that it brings in more money. But then
Mhm,
also
mhm.
these two brands went on their own outside of the ACC to agree to a 12-year partnership, which they think is going to give them more money. It's also going to give them better strength of schedule, which will help them get to the playoffs and more exposure so that when it's time for their deal to come up, either the ACC makes more money and gets more aligned with the Big Ten and the SEC, which is doubtful, or they reposition themselves to leave. So all three of these pieces sort of go together because all of it has to do with money, of course, as is the big business of college football, but sort of more importantly, getting into the playoffs and furthering your brand and
Period.
money.
Period. And it's fun.
Yeah. I mean, for me,
Yeah. um,
well, honestly, I don't care about this because I could care less about Clemson. I am
I
going to watch these games, but like, I don't really care what anything that Clemson does.
I I'm always going to be here for the big brands playing each other because like that's what we watch college football for. Like
Yeah, I just think there's a
realistically,
chance in like 4 years Clemson is trash, and so this is just like 8 years of blowouts. Like that's my sort of theory.
yeah,
Like Clemson's already sort of teetering on that, and I know
yeah,
they sort of like go back and forth. Like of course they did make the playoff last year, right? And so like if you believe that Clemson is gonna recover from the last couple of years and be a good team again, then like this is great. But there's just like a real distinct chance that in like 4 years Clemson is like
booty cheeks.
yeah, and so it's just
Yeah,
like Notre Dame is just smacking them for 8 years straight, and this
yeah,
game doesn't matter for anything at all. Like they're not getting extra money, they're not getting extra thing because it's no longer a good
a marquee game.
brand game, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but I mean that's the risk you always run with these large contracts. So what can you do?
Yeah, at least they're trying, and I feel like that's the big thing is like the dichotomy of the conversation on the side of the SEC not wanting to add a ninth game because of whatever, whereas on this side they're like, no, let's add it, let's have this high competition level, let's have this because they understand that it's good for the bottom line, it's good for the broadcast money, it's good for the viewership, it's good like okay maybe in 4 or 5 years it'll be trash and they'll get smacked up or whatever the case is, but also at the same time maybe not.
Yeah, and it's crazy that this is the third conference, but they're not afraid of competition. Interesting. Do you want to introduce our last piece, or should I?
I mean, you're already doing so well, and I'm probably about to talk a lot, so just go.
Understood. So the last piece of news is that somebody's president, Trump,
The president of this
is
here nation, whose office I don't personally respect, but apparently Saquon Barkley does. Go ahead.
he is rumored to create a landmark college sports commission. It is
Because that's what he
supposed to
needs to be
be,
using his time on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
honestly, this may be better than what he's currently using his time on, because at least this hurts less people. Like, should be, no. But he's not spending his time on the things he should. He's just spending his time on things that are hurting people. So, like, let him focus on entertainment. Like, the Olympics are coming. If he's busy with that, maybe he'll leave the rest of us alone.
They're already threatening to deport people as soon as the Olympics are over. Go ahead with the commission.
He is
It's so
rumored to
bad.
be starting a presidential commission. It's supposed to be headlined by Nick Saban and co-chaired by, what is that guy's
Cody,
name?
whatever his name is, Cody somebody.
$1 billion Texas Tech booster.
Yeah.
It is supposed to be co-chaired by them, and essentially, it's supposed to be looking at the issues that plague college athletics, including NIL, unregulated booster pay, the transfer portal, college
Revenue
athlete
sharing.
employment status with universities, revenue sharing, Title IX, conference membership, and television contracts. I don't think half of this gets looked at, but essentially, the brass tacks, as some people like to say, the point of this is the NCAA is terrified of being sued for everything. They have been sued for everything for literal years. That's how we're getting to revenue sharing and all of this big landmark, the House settlement that's happening right now. And so basically, their hope, and they've been calling for this for a while, is that, okay, we acquiesce to these things. We got this House settlement. We did this stuff. Now they want Congress or the president to give them an antitrust agreement, which basically means that they can't be sued for some of these things. Because essentially, in layman's terms, as best I can say, because I'm not a lawyer and I try to stay away from some of this stuff. Part of the reason that they can be sued is because they're sitting on this borderline of one being a monopoly and two being an employer. And so because of that, there are certain rules that they can't enforce without people like questioning it. And so you take away their power. If they get an antitrust exemption, that means they can regulate certain things in this industry without it being like uh, against like workers' rights and like some of these sort of things. So their hope is that because they acquiesced, they took away some of their power. There's NIL. There's some of these things that the government will step in, regulate some pieces that they can't regulate, and then it becomes law, and then it gives them the ability to regulate certain things. And again, is this what the president should be focused on? No. But in general, there is sort of a need for something like this, just for the fact that right now the NCAA literally can't
They can't
defend
enforce
anything.
anything.
They
Yeah.
can't enforce anything that even
Yeah.
makes sense. Like Diego Pavia, this is something that really doesn't matter. The NCAA has a rule that if you played at the FCS level, I believe it is, it counts towards your
Eligibility.
eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a quarterback who played at a lower level. He wanted an additional year. He said, I'm going to sue you so that year doesn't count. Actually, it's NAIA, not FCS, NAIA. If you play at, which is still a lower level, but it's technically a different governing body, that if you play at that level, your years at that level count. So if you play 2 years there, you only get 2 years if you come to Division One. And
Right.
that guy's basically saying those years shouldn't count. He put in a lawsuit and they had to give him an extra year. Like, that is something that they should be able to enforce. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things that they should, but like that kind of case right there,
Eligibility, yeah.
they
Like
should be
that
able
should
to
not be an
enforce
issue.
that. Right. But like right now they can't of the threat of lawsuit. So that is the hope with this. Of course, with this government and this Congress and these people, they're probably going to overstep.
They're gonna
There's
mess it
going to
up
be some,
completely.
especially because they're considering Title IX. They're going to screw over
They are
women
going
and
to
trans
screw women
athletes.
completely.
Like, I am not going to say that this is going to be a good thing, but
Nope.
some of the bare minimum things they're hoping for do actually make sense, because there does need to be some sort of governing body, and
Mm-hmm.
right now there's nothing.
They're going to completely mess this up in ways that is going to be absolutely catastrophic, because that is what the Trump administration does. So I have no hope in this whatsoever, but I appreciate the sentiment. I appreciate the recognition of the need for a governing body and governance, because the NCAA is going to be wrapped up in lawsuits for the rest of its natural born life otherwise. But if you think that I trust Donald Trump, some rich dude from Texas, and Nick Saban to do anything that's going to be positive,
You're wrong.
please leave me alone, especially with Title IX being a part of the conversation. Like, this just also just feels like it's just about to be a
Not be.
circus. It's, huh?
I was just saying, which it should not be.
Yeah, like it just feels like it's just about to be a circus. They're going to find a way to make women less equal. They've been doing that all over the place. They're going to find a way to make trans athletes a point of conversation when they don't need to be. No tea, it's like less than 1% of NCAA athletes. So they're just going to find a way to mess this up. And that's what annoys me about the whole thing. But I appreciate the understanding of like realizing that the NCAA's can only do so much, and there has to be some sort of buffer or protection or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But
And also, it's kind of hard to be governed by 150-year-old documents. Like, some of this,
yeah,
like the NCAA wouldn't be facing this if they willingly changed and
change with the
got with the
times.
times, and they
Yeah,
did not, which is
yeah,
where all of this sort of falls in. But there does legitimately need to be a, a review of governance in 2025 for how people live and are treated and the things that exist. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when the NCAA started, they could have never envisioned $3 billion TV contracts. They didn't even have
exactly,
TV. So, like,
exactly.
like they were basically started so, like, 40-year-olds weren't playing college sports. Like, like it
Yeah,
was, and so it's, two things can be true in that certain very small pieces of this are necessary and make sense, and also the people involved are going to screw this up.
100%. But hey, they're trying, I guess,
Yeah.
But I forgot what I was about to say. I don't know. We'll just see. We'll just see. There's so much that's changing with the NCAA as it is. And from what I understand, they've been lobbying a lot for help from the federal government. So
Yeah.
I mean, we are just gonna have to see.
Well, yeah, they've been lobbying a lot, and they weren't getting any help from the Democrats because the Democrats were like, "Hey, we have a
We're trying to
government to
protect
run."
human rights.
Yeah, so they got, yeah. Regardless,
Oh my gosh.
let's talk about something that you care about, and I will switch the show over to you as you lead us through our WNBA preview and breakdown. On Mother's Day, we're talking about the mothers. What are
Oh
we talking about,
my
DJ?
goodness. Okay, so we are doing a WNBA preview today. I'm super, super excited. The season starts officially in 1 week. So on May 16th, actually less than a week now, 5 days. So on May 16th, the WNBA season officially tips off. We are already in preseason currently, so we've already had a week's worth of preseason games. We're going to have a few more before this is all said and done. But I thought it would be a little fun that since this is our 2-minute drill, the WNBA preview, I am going to do my best to preview each team in 2 minutes. So this is going to be really, really fun. But just to go over some overview of some changes that are coming to the WNBA. For the most part, the game is staying the same. There are no major rule changes as far as the actual play, but there are now 44 regular season games, which is up from 30 something or whatever that they had last year. So they have 22 home games and 22 away games. And then now the finals series will go up from 5 games to 7 games. So realistically, we're going to be getting, what is that, 51 WNBA games this season. Very, very exciting if it goes all the way to 7 games, which who knows if that's going to happen. But after the
Well, it
series
would be
last
more than
year,
that, right?
um,
Because you did 44 plus the finals. You didn't count the rounds in between that.
44 plus, what is it, like two or three games that they
I
have
don't
for the
know.
actual, yeah, it's not a lot for the
It's
postseason.
probably close to. It's probably somewhere around 60. There's
55,
probably
60,
six.
somewhere around
Yeah.
there. And then so that's one of the major news for the WNBA. And also we have not one, not two, not three, but 8 new head coaches this season. So there's going to be a lot of systematic changes. There's been a lot of personnel changes from team to team. And then, of course, as many people know, and one of the hottest topics in the WNBA right now is the impending new CBA. So, of course, there's a lot of discussion about whether the players are actually even going to be playing this year, depending on how those negotiations are going to go. I'm not going to get too deep into that, but that is something that is on the horizon as the CBA, as the Players Association has opted out of that. So that's kind of like the overarching vibes for the WNBA right now. Lots and lots of changes. Obviously, they're doing their best to capitalize on the major popularity that they experienced last year. So a lot more nationally broadcast games, a lot more access to WNBA games locally, as well as, of course, they're having over 200 of their games being accessible via the WNBA League Pass, which I think is like $35. So really trying to make sure that it's accessible, really trying to make sure that fans actually are able to see the games. Of course, the top 3 teams with the most nationally broadcasted games, shock, the Indiana Fever, which of course features Caitlin Clark, the New York Liberty, which is the reigning champs, and then the Las Vegas Aces, which of course Asia Wilson is a part of that. Any thoughts on that? The fun at WNBA news and things.
Not really. I think the going up to 44 is good. I think it's great that we're finally going to eventually we're going to have a basketball product that has a good season.
Mm-hmm.
That's not 80 games, but it's also not like 30. Um, as I've said before, and I understand that you can't do all of this, it would be nice for them to stop piecemealing certain things. So I'm hoping that with this new CBA and that they go back and they just, because they've had so many, because they haven't announced the next round of teams, because, the rumor is that the Cleveland team is coming back. They haven't announced
Yeah.
the next round of teams. I'm hoping that we sort of get this CBA the 2 to 4. I hope it's for the 4 teams, and then some a couple more of these like rule changes with like the expansion of the playoffs and some of these sort of things, so that we can have a couple of years where it's sort of stagnant. So
Yeah.
it's just like I kind of don't have any thoughts on it because it's still just another stepping stone. Like when they get to 18 or 20 teams, I don't think they're going to end at 44 games. So in a
Oh,
couple of years,
yeah.
it's going to go up again and these sort of things. So it's nice to see that they're making progress. The media deal is great.
Yeah.
Like that hasn't started yet this year. That starts next year. But the media deal is great. It's good. It's good. But it's also sort of like I'm hoping that there's not a work stoppage and that they sort of have the foresight to say, let's stop doing this piecemeal. Let's stop doing 1 or 2 teams a year. Let's stop making 1 or 2 league. Like I know you can't do everything at once. That'd be crazy. But now that you're in sort of a more stable spot, how much can we get to the sort of final end goal? And not the final end goal, because in 20 years, like how much
Yeah.
can we
But the
get to
next
the end goal for
phase.
the next decade, right? Like
Yeah.
what can we get to? This TV contract runs for 11 years. What can we get to where maybe for that 11 years we can just let it grow and we're not constantly doing things? So that's sort of my thought. But I mean, there has been progress. It has been good progress. It has been necessary progress. And I mean, I don't watch basketball. You all know that, but I do watch women's basketball, and I am excited for the season because I will be watching this. NBA,
Yes.
man, you know, they not
We're,
seen. They haven't seen me yet.
The
It's the
NBA is
playoffs. They
actually
haven't seen me
getting
yet.
very, very entertaining, though, I will say. This, to me, is the best time of the year. This is like Christmas for me because I have my 2 favorite versions of basketball at the same time. I have men's playoff basketball, which is the only men's basketball worth watching, in my opinion. And I have the beginning of women's basketball. So I am thrilled. But the other piece of news, obviously, the WNBA is expanding from 12 teams to 13 teams this year, but the playoff structure is still the same. It's going to be those top 8 teams that make it into the playoffs. As you guys know, the WNBA, or maybe not, the WNBA is agnostic as far as conferences are concerned. So multiple teams, more than 4 teams from each conference could come out. It's based on merit, basically. It's based on what am I looking for? What's the term I'm
Standings.
trying to
Like
record? It's
record
based
and
on record.
standing, yeah.
So it's not the same as the MNBA where they're going to pick a certain number of teams from one conference and a certain number of teams from another. But there are conferences. So we're gonna start on the East side. And my first 2 minutes, I'm going to be using on the Atlanta Dream. That is a team that has a new head coach. And they brought in some pretty major players during the offseason. So they brought in Brittany Griner and Brianna Jones. As many of you probably know, Brittany Griner spent the entirety of her career up until now on the Phoenix Mercury. She was drafted there. She spent 11 years there. She won some championships there with Diana Taurasi. I had a feeling that Diana Taurasi was going to retire as soon as BG signed the contract with the Dream, because I was like, there is no way that lady is leaving if Diana is still playing. And I do believe Diana's retirement got announced like a week after that. But they're returning their backcourt. They've got Jordan Canada. They've got Alicia Gray. They've got Ryan Howard. All of them had great showings at Unrivaled. Unfortunately, Jordan has already suffered an injury during their first preseason game. It's a knee injury that will be reevaluated in 2 weeks. But she is supposed to be their court general, and she already missed about 20 games last year. So we're really hoping to get her back. And then, of course, they drafted Tahina Paopao, who was a sensation at South Carolina, led the league 2 years ago in three-point shootings, has shot over 40% multiple times. So that's going to be great to add to Alicia Gray, the reigning three-point contest winner, and Ryan Howard, who just set a record and Unrivaled for most threes in a game at 9 threes. So they're really just trying to make it to the playoffs again, and get their first playoff win since 2018. I think with a Bree Jones and a BG, they've increased their size drastically. And now they've got an amazing backcourt to go with it. So, I mean, the sky is the limit for the Atlanta Dream, in my opinion.
They got some shooters in Atlanta.
They got some shooters in Atlanta, period. Also, Tahina Paopao is incredibly popular, so they're already seeing a boost in ticket sales, just in general. And Atlanta typically is one of those teams that draws out the stars. This usually has a star-studded sideline going on with, the rappers and other people going to the Atlanta Dream games and really showing some love. So love that for them. That was 2 minutes. Okay. Any thoughts on the Atlanta Dream?
Like if I give my thoughts, we're gonna be here for 2 hours. I actually don't have any thoughts on the Atlanta Dream outside Ryan Howard is a sore, so I always sort of root for them. Yeah, kind of. I can't root for too many teams. Like it's like I'm passively rooting for the Liberty because I live in New York. I'm absolutely rooting for this Sky because of Angel. I'm waiting for a Cleveland team, so like, I can't root for everybody. Like I love the Aces because of
Very true.
Asia, so like I can only root for so many. But I do like Alicia Gray. I think she's dope. I'm a big fan of Ryan Howard. She's a soror. So for those of you who don't know, fraternity season a shorty. That's what I'm gonna say about that. But yeah, so
Period. Shout out to the
uh,
Atlanta Dream.
and
Next,
they got some
what?
shooters out there.
They got some
like,
shooters. They got some shooters. I mean,
they're gonna be
those
tough.
at this point, I'm really excited that it's not all on Ryan Howard to be that shooter. That she's surrounded with a little bit more in that regard. Because Tahina Pow, and the thing about her is she can shoot the three, but she can also get into the paint. So love to see that from her. Now, next on the Eastern Conference, it is everybody's favorite team, the Chicago Sky. As you guys know. Hopefully, Angel Reese is on the Chicago Sky. They too have a new head coach. He is part of the Becky Hammon coaching tree, which means that he is, in my opinion, indirectly a part of the Greg Popovich coaching tree. So he is coming in. He is a brand new head coach. He has a full female assistant coaching team. And actually, the previous head coach of the Atlanta Dream is now the assistant coach on one of the assistant coaches on his team. Of course, they are returning Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso. They are expected to be one of the best front courts, Yes, one of the best front courts that we will probably ever see in the women's game. I'm just going to be honest. And then, of course, there's been a lot of additions of veterans. They've got Kia Nurse, they've got Courtney Vandersloot, they've got Ariel Atkins, they've got Beck Allen. And so they really are trying to bring in not just a heavy veteran presence, but a heavy, strong guard presence. Courtney Vandersloot, of course, was a part of that 2021 Chicago championship team. So Chicago is very, very happy to have her back. And then as far as the draft goes, they drafted Haley Van Lith, who played at LSU with Angel Reese at one point, and then, of course, had one of the best seasons of her life at TCU, and has already come in and looks very, very comfortable at that guard position, very, very comfortable as a 1 or 2. Great shooter, great facilitator, great shot-making ability. So I am very excited to see her on this roster. I've already watched both three. Maybe they've had three preseason games. Courtney Vandersloot, Camilla, and Angel are just making me happy. And in just a way that I just can't even describe, because the only thing that Angel and Camilla really needed was a good facilitator. That's all they really needed, was a good distributor. And that is who Courtney is at her core. She did that in New York, just came off of a championship in New York, with some of the best bigs and forwards in the league, and Stewie and JJ. So she gets to come here and really show these young girls what can be done when they actually have good distribution. Tyler Marsh, the head coach, has been very, very, I'm over my 2 minutes. Tyler Marsh, the head coach, has been very, very open and honest about the fact that he's going to utilize Angel in a different way than she was used last year, and that he wants her to be a point forward. So you're going to see a lot more of Angel bringing the ball up, being a distributor herself, popping up some jumpers, not really being on the block as much as maybe she was last year. And that's already being evident as well. Angel Reese is a very, very good passer. Her passing ability is very underrated. So I'm going to stop talking now. How do we feel about Chicago?
I love Chicago. My only thing with Chicago is I just feel like they didn't get enough shooting.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they're really sort of missing where some other teams have sort of like Atlanta has sort of stacked up on it. I think they're really missing that 3 and D element. I
Yeah.
think that they have too many players who need the ball in their hands because I mean I guess if you it all depends on how good the coach is, right? Because maybe you just don't give Camilla the ball so much as far it's very much like you give it to her and she puts it up like you're not so much running it through
She's
her.
playing like a
If you
center.
yeah, like if you pull Angel out of the paint, but you want her to hold, I just feel like they have a lot of ball handlers and not enough people who can just sit there and pull the defense away and catch and shoot. Like you said, Haley HVL, Haley Van Lith is a good shooter, but she's, in my opinion, a much better on the ball shooter than off the ball. She's not so much a spot up shooter, which
Mm-hmm.
is a very different skill. And so, um, yeah, I mean, I think
I
that
will
they'll
say
be
Kia
good.
Nurse and Ariel Atkins are, though. Kia Nurse is a very fantastic catch and shoot spot up shooter. I think that's why they got her. She didn't have as much of an impact in LA as I feel like a lot of people expected her to. But that is her bag, is 3-point shooting for sure, and Ariel Atkins as well.
Yeah, so I mean, that's my thought. I sort of wish that they got like one more, um, but I think that they're going to be a tough out, and I think that they're going to firmly be fighting for the playoffs.
Period. Moving on in the East. Now, granted, is this the East? Yes, it is. It is. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of another team. So moving on to the East, the Connecticut Sun, another team, shock, that has a new head coach. They had the coach of the year last year, Stephanie White. She has moved over to the Indiana Fever. And now they have a new head coach. He was coaching overseas. I can't fully recall his name, but he basically comes from the overseas space. So the Connecticut Sun are an interesting case, right? Because they were one of the best teams in the WNBA last year. They started off on a 13-game winning streak, one of the best winning streaks in the WNBA. They have a culture of making it at least to the semifinals every single year. They had the engine AT, they had Bree Jones, they had Dejanay Carrington, they had DeWanna Bonner. I mean, they had a freaking squad. And then they became one of the first teams in professional sports history to lose their entire starting lineup in free agency. So now we have this team where Marina Mabrey is the only core player left on the team. They have some new additions. They've added Tina Charles, the legend Tina Charles, who came over from Atlanta. They added Diamond DeShields, JC Sheldon, and then they drafted Anissa Morrow, Rhea Marshall, and Sanaya Rivers in this year's draft. And honestly, I'm not mad at it. I don't think they're making it to the semifinals again, but I do think that the squad that they have put together in free agency, along with the draft picks, is going to make for at least a pretty like scrappy, chippy sort of team. Like they're going to be the type of team that like nobody wants to play. They're going to be like, because Marina Mabrey, between Marina Mabrey, Anissa Morrow, and Sanaya Rivers, and all of that energy, there may be a fight. There may be something like that's going to be the team that you're like, bro, we gotta go play them again. Like that's what I'm getting. But again, I don't think they're definitely in a rebuild. I don't think this is a playoff year for them. But it's going to be very interesting because this will be kind of Marina Mabrey's first year as a real leader. Obviously, she played on the Sky last year and the last couple years, and she was kind of, just a guard sort of like option. Same sort of vibes in Dallas, where she was kind of like that number two behind Enrique. Now she comes into the Connecticut Sun. She was a part of a system, but it was a championship winning system, so it was a little different. Whereas now she's going to be that sort of like vet to kind of, really rally the troops and be that leader. So that'll be an interesting new position for her.
Yeah, I sort of view this one like the Sky last year, where it's
Yeah,
sort of they're probably not going to win, but they may punch you in the mouth. Not literally, but like if you look at the Sky,
they'll be
like
tough.
yeah, so many of their games were close, right? Because they were just a tough team, and it's going to obviously different and for different reasons, but I think they're also, if you like watching young players and you don't care to watch teams lose, I think they're probably going to be a little fun to watch with some of the players, but I don't know that they're going to win many games.
I don't think so either. Now, what I will say is they just had their first preseason games a couple days ago against the reigning champions New York Liberty, and they smacked them right on up. So I wouldn't be too like, yeah, I wouldn't count them out too much. Now, granted, obviously they played the Liberty without Stewie, but they still smacked them up. That is a good sign, is what I'm getting at. Moving on, speaking of the nope, moving on to the Indiana Fever. Um, the most popular team in the WNBA. This is not a secret. They sell the most merch. They sell out all of their games, all of this stuff because they have Caitlin Clark. They now have another new head coach in Stephanie White, but this is not obviously her first time coaching in the WNBA like a few of these other new coaches. This is just her moving around, right? So she is back at the Indiana Fever. The last time the Indiana Fever played in the finals was when she was their head coach back in 2015, I believe. So she's back here. She's back with this team trying to create a new system around Caitlin Clark. And my God, did they do some shit this offseason. So they have added four vets in Sophie Cunningham, DeWanna Bonner, Sid Colson, and Natasha Howard, all individuals who have won championships before. DeWanna Bonner, of course, being one of the longest tenured women in the WNBA at 15 seasons. And they don't have a lot of spots for new players. So they're probably going to be waiving most of their rookies, unfortunately. The South Carolina guard, Bree Hall, has already been waived from the Fever because they ain't got no roster spots. I mean, that's just really what's going on over there. But a lot of people are hoping that she does end up getting picked up because she had a good preseason debut. It's just the Fever structure right now. They don't have a lot of space. I think they only had one spot available. But it's looking really good for them because Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, they were a really great pick and roll duo. Kelsey Mitchell, of course, being one of the top 5 scorers in the league last year. So they were able to re-sign her. They've got Caitlin Clark not having to be that leader as much anymore because I think that was the biggest issue is the Fever was the youngest team. Their longest tenured person on the team was Kelsey Mitchell. She's only been in the league for 6 years. And so they really were needing some leadership and some veteran presence. And I think that they definitely went out and got that. So right now they're a favorite for being in the championship. I think that's absolutely insane. Personally, I just think that's insane. But will they make it to the playoffs? They should. They have too many people with experience not to. So
Yeah, I have no thoughts about the Fever. I don't like watching them play, but that is OSU legend Kelsey Mitchell to you. And I am a big fan of Aaliyah Boston. I am not nearly a fan of Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark playing together. I don't think that their playing styles play well together. But again, it was 1 year, so new coach,
yeah,
new offseason, maybe that fits. This has nothing to do with either of them individually. I just think, and if you've listened to me on various podcasts for years, I've very heavily pushed against positionless basketball. I was very anti Nets. I was very anti Clippers. I do think, as much as we like to pretend that it doesn't, you do need to build a team that sort of connects together. I'm
yeah,
not saying that they. I think some of the things that they've done do. I don't know. I need to be convinced that Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston can work. Um,
yeah.
I think that
I need to be
Caitlin
convinced of
is
Caitlin Clark and
too.
DeWanna Bonner.
Also, I think Caitlin is too ball
Ball dominant.
dominant to play with dominant bigs, and Aaliyah Boston can be a dominant big. Like, I know that she got overshadowed because of Caitlin because of celebrity, but Aaliyah Boston also won Rookie of the Year. I think
Yeah,
she was an All Star or close to an All Star her first year. She
I
is
don't
a
know.
good player, but she needs the ball in her hand. Caitlin Clark is also a good player, but she needs the ball in her hand. So And I don't like watching Clark play, but it again, nothing about her. I don't. She's too frantic for me, um, and it's just not pleasing to the eye to watch the like like if you
The
compare her,
runaround vibe. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like compare and we're gonna get this comparison a lot. I want to be clear, especially before the season starts. I'm not comparing who's better. I could care less. That conversation will come later. But if you compare how she plays to how Paige plays, or even Steph plays, right? When you want to talk about the shooter, the game is just it's just smooth. It just sort of comes to them, like right. And this is not good or bad because Caitlin is good at what she does. I'm just saying it is not pleasing for me to watch, which sucks because OSU legend Kelsey Mitchell's on the team. But I don't know how much Fever games I'm gonna watch. I do not like watching her play. It's too frantic. It's too sort of all over the place for me.
I I have seen enough, to be honest, when it comes to Caitlin Clark to know that she's a good guard, right? She's a good
Yeah,
guard. She's a good shooter. She's a good distributor. The biggest thing that I would want to see from her, I think at this point, is to your point, composure. I just feel like she doesn't have it, and when stuff doesn't go her way, she wants to yell at refs and she wants to act all crazy and she wants to get mad. She wants to get in people's faces and do all this other stuff. And people want to call that feistiness when it's coming from her, but then they want to call it something else when it's coming from players that are a different shade. So for me, I'm just more so like, if we're going to sit here and we're going to say that she's this amazing guard who's going to be able to win a championship in her second year, which by the way has never happened, um they're saying that she's a favorite for MVP and all this other stuff. I just think we need to calm down. Like, I just think we all just need to take deep breaths of fresh air and
I
drink
can
some crisp cold water. Like, she's
I can tell
going
you for
to.
an absolute fact MVP is not gonna happen. Not
No, no,
never.
not now, not now,
Yeah.
not never, but not
Also,
now.
this is not a question for today because we would have to look it up. But when is the last time a guard won MVP? It's also just partial. It's just like how the W is. Like it's very much
It's
run
four
through the
heavy. It's
four.
all about the four. It is. Period. It is. And I would have to look up the last time a
Angel,
guard
yeah,
won MVP because I wouldn't be able to
Stewie,
tell you.
yeah. That's what I said. Like
Um,
that's something we can look at later. So,
yeah, I was
but
like, I wouldn't be able
again,
to tell you, but it's been a little minute since a guard has won MVP. But I will say, when a guard wins MVP, they're usually a point guard, right?
yeah. Hmm.
So can she? Yeah. Is she doing it this year? No. And the reason why I think that, though, is back to your original point, and that's just because the ball is just going to be in her hands less. Like, the ball is just, she's probably not going to get as many assists. She's probably still going to get as many points as what she had last year because she's
Yeah,
a
of
great
course.
scorer, but she's not going to have as much of that as what she had last year. And I also just think it's not really fair to expect as much of her after just in year two. I just don't think it's, I personally, like, as much as I don't always advocate for Caitlin Clark, I will advocate for her in this sense that I think people's expectations of her are entirely too high as a second year player. And we need to give her some grace and we need to be fair in the fact that she's only had 1 year of WNBA play. She only had 2 postseason games last year, I believe. So we just have to give her some time. I mean, the girl doesn't know what winning feels like. So we have to give her some time. Sorry, but she doesn't. But that's good because now she has all these individuals around her who do. And this will be a really good development year for her. I do
Yeah.
still think the Fever are making it to the postseason though. Like, I
Oh
have no
yeah.
doubt.
Yeah.
Um,
I think if you're a Fever fan, you should feel good about what they did
yeah,
in this
you should
offseason.
absolutely feel good about. You should feel, if you're a Fever fan and you come from a 9 game winning season to a 13 game winning season to going 50% the year after that, you should be very happy as a Fever fan. Um, Period. And you have one of the greatest coaches you have one of the greatest WNBA coaches in Stephanie White. So there should be a lot of success for that team. I just am hoping that it won't all get attributed to Caitlin because it probably won't be because of her. It'll probably be in spite of her, actually. I hate to say that, but that's just, anyway, we've been on the Fever for a while. So moving on to the next team in the Eastern Conference, because we are still in the Eastern Conference, the reigning champions, the New York Liberty. Of course, typically when you won a championship, you're not going to have a whole lot of off-season changes, because why would you do that? You just won a championship. So they are retaining their coach. Obviously, they still got Stewie, they still got JJ, they've still got Sabrina Ionescu, all of them coming into this season healthy. Sabrina had a good-ish season in Unrivaled. She was sort of in and out because she had other engagements, but the times that she did play, she played well.
And
Um,
For the reference, JJ John Jones.
Jonquel Jones, I'm sorry, Jonquel Jones, the reigning Finals MVP. They lost Courtney Vandersloot, like I said, she's in Chicago, but they gained Natasha Cloud from the Phoenix Mercury. She's a great point guard, WNBA All Defensive Team. So she's going to come in and make a difference early. Unfortunately, Nigel Laney Hamilton is starting the season again injured. I believe it's a knee injury, and so that's going to be a major loss for them. They also lost Kayla Thornton to the expansion draft for the Golden State Valkyries, so they have some spots that they're going to have to fill a little bit. Kennedy Burke, who is one of their forwards who didn't get as much time last year, has already kind of shown that she's probably going to be a next woman up sort of option. They have Jalen Sherrod in her second year. She's kind of that spark off the bench sort of vibes. And then, of course, they have Nyara Sabli, who is the sister to the unicorn Satu Sabli. So I have no doubts that New York is going to have a successful year. Are they repeating? I don't know. Because in my opinion, they really had no business winning that championship in the first place. So I don't know, man.
I don't know, but I'll be at some games.
No, I don't know, but I'll be at some games. I'm crying. Okay. So Jordan will be at the games. Okay, so moving on to the Washington Mystics, another team with a new head coach. Take a shot every time I say that there's a team with a new head coach.
And finish the show.
They're in a complete rebuild. Okay, they had a 13-win season last season, I believe, or maybe 12. They did not have a great season last year. But the thing about the Washington Mystics that I want to be very clear on is they also had a lot of games determined by single digits. Okay, so they were losing games, but they weren't getting smacked up. They were not getting smacked up. They were 1 to 2 possessions away from winning a lot of games. So their record is definitely not indicative of the talent that they possess. They're returning a few players. Obviously, Aaliyah Edwards. They're returning Brittany Sykes. She's going to be healthy this year. They did lose Elena Deladon. She obviously announced her retirement this year, and they lost Ariel Atkins to Chicago. But they're in a rebuild. They had 3 first-round picks this season, and their team has 9 rookies on it. So they're a young team. Not much to expect from them as far as success, if you will, like making it to the postseason and things like that. But they're definitely a team to watch as far as development. They've got Sonia Citron, they've got Kiki Ariafin, they have Georgia Amor, who unfortunately suffered an ACL injury, so we won't be seeing her this year. But Kiki Ariafin and Sonia Citron already kind of making their cases as way too early Rookie of the Year prospects. So very, very excited to see how this Washington Mystics team really plays out. Brittany Sykes, of course, had a great season and Unrivaled, winning a championship with the Rose Basketball Club. I think having a 20-point game in the finals, if I'm not mistaken, in that final game. So she's playing with a lot more freedom. She's playing with a lot more energy. So I think the Washington Mystics are definitely a team to watch for sure. They'll be fun to watch. They may not win every game, but they'll be fun to watch.
I don't care about none of that outside the fact that Aaliyah Edwards is a pure hooper.
Oh my God, the purest.
And
yes,
if I'm lucky, I'm gonna go to one of their games too, because DC's not that far from me. If not this year, it's gonna happen. And I'm joking when I say that I don't care about any of that. I do, but like I just wanted to get off the fact that Aaliyah Edwards is a pure hooper. And if I remember correctly, she did win the 1v1, right?
No, she didn't win, but she was in the finals and Fee beat her. Napheesa won the one-on-one.
Sure
Napheesa won the one-on-one tournament, but no. Napheesa Collier won the one-on-one, but Aaliyah was who she played against.
She cheated because it's her league, right?
Yes,
she had to get the bag because it's her league. I'm just putting up. Fee was legit too.
Fee is,
but Aaliyah Edwards is a.
I can't deal.
She is one of the purest of hoopers. One thing you'll learn about me, and maybe you all don't know this because I don't talk about basketball that much. I am very much like I'm not a basketball purist. I think that's a dumb thing to say, but I lean more towards like old school. I just don't care about certain things. I care about. I don't know how to explain it.
I don't know what you're saying.
There's some people, right, where it's just like the game is sort of like manufactured, or they can only do one thing and they sort of do it well. I really sort of like just like it doesn't matter where you put them, it doesn't matter what you're gonna do, they're gonna get a bucket, right?
Yeah,
some of the best bucket getters, like Carmelo Anthony, that is a pure hooper. Like that is a bucket getter. It don't matter where you put him, he's getting a bucket. Like I like players like. Yeah, like like if for me to kind of sort of care about a player that's not like LeBron, because I'm from Ohio and things like that. My favorite player is Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade was a bucket. Like he was
Yeah.
a pure hooper. It didn't matter. He was going. Yeah. So that's what I like when it comes to basketball. Aaliyah Edwards is one of them. She can get it any way you want
She's
it. Any way you
she
want it, she'll give it to you.
if you did not know about Aaliyah Edwards, hopefully now you know. That's really how that goes.
And it's
Because
crazy that she did not win with
it is. But
at
and if you
UConn, dog. Like Aaliyah Edwards and Paige Bueckers didn't get a championship is crazy.
I know. Well, because Paige wasn't healthy. So
Yeah, I know.
not
It's
fully. And
sad.
the
I
rest
know.
of the team wasn't healthy. They only had 6 players last year, child.
Yeah.
Anyways, we gotta speed through the West. Okay. The West doesn't have as much going on as the East does, but the West, starting with the Dallas Wings. Oh my gosh, speaking of Paige Bueckers, don't you love a good segue? The Dallas Wings also, oh my gosh, shock, have a new head coach, but they have the trifecta, right? So they have a new head coach, they have a new GM, and they got the number 1 pick. So if I would say the Dallas Wings are on the up and up at this point. They desperately needed a point guard last year. And they obviously now have Paige Bueckers, who is known to be a really, really great distributor, but also can call her own numbers. So that was just truly the perfect slot in. And they also did a lot of movement in the offseason as well. They went and they acquired Dejanay Carrington, Ty Harris, Nalissa Smith, and Maisha Hines Allen. The 4 of them with Paige is a fucking squad. I'm sorry. Like Dejanay Carrington had a great season and unrivaled. Maisha Hines Allen was just on the finals team with the Lynx, and then Nalissa Smith was on the Fever, and then Ty Harris was coming from the Connecticut Sun. Great acquisitions. They also had some good picks in the draft, not just with Paige Bueckers, but with Isaiah James and JJ Quintero. So now they haven't obviously officially made the roster yet, but I wouldn't be surprised. Unfortunately, the Dallas Wings do have 15 players on the roster, and they do have to cut 3 by Wednesday, I believe. So there will be some cuts. I think there already has been one, but we can only hope that the 2 players that I just mentioned are going to make the roster. They've had a couple of preseason games. Let me tell you something. The Dallas Wings are no joke this year. They're making the playoffs. I'm telling you guys right now, the Dallas Wings are making the playoffs because we finally get to see the Dallas Wings in a position where Arike does not have to be Mrs. Everything. She had some of the highest minutes per game, the highest usage rate in the WNBA period last year. And that's just not fair to anybody. She's put the Wings on her back a few times. She led the league in steals last year. She was in the top 3 for scoring last year. She obviously had the amazing All-Star game that she has. So no one's saying that Enrique's not good, but damn it, can we get the girl some help? Like, can we get the girl some help? She's never really been a point guard. She's always really more so been a 2 or a 3. So love that she finally actually has a team where the ball can be distributed in a way where she can just kind of play free, play off the ball, catch and shoot, do what she really does best. So I'm looking forward to the Wings. They have some really, really great pace. They got some really, really great chemistry already, even though they haven't been playing that long together. So I'm excited about the Dallas Wings, and I will be at some Dallas Wings games probably as early as next week, hopefully.
Jealous. Yeah, I mean, Paige is a pure bucket getter. Arike is a pure bucket getter. Dejanay Carrington is a
Defense,
dog.
just
Like,
defense.
and like, there's definitely some room to grow with her on offense, but she's definitely one of those players that can, like, when she's on, can drop like 12 in 3 minutes and have
Oh
two
yeah.
steals and like, so like she's a very good spark plug, but she's at bare minimum, right? I think with for sports and basketball in general, you want to know what you're going to get from someone from the bare minimum. And if DJ Carrington's having the worst game of her life, she's still going to be one of the best defenders on the floor. So
Yep.
like, I think they got a squad. They're going to be fun, and who knows what's going to happen this year? But a year, 2, 3 years, like they're going to be a team to watch for sure.
1000%. Speaking of teams to watch, the Golden State Valkyries, oh my goodness, our expansion team. Now, let's be very, very clear. They do not want to be referred to as an expansion team. They want to be referred to as a new team because they feel like the term expansion team has that connotation that they're not going to be good.
They're not
And
going to be good. Their roster sucks.
and and they are at a point where they want to win a championship within the next 5 years. They have very, very lofty
do
goals.
they see their roster?
Yes. So
Okay.
speaking of their roster,
You know what? You're right. They are going to win one in the next 5 years because they're going to get the number one pick and they're going to get they're going to get Sarah Strong.
they're gonna
they're
get
going to
Sarah
get
Strong
Sarah.
in
They're going to get Sarah
2028.
Strong in 3 years, and
Oh
then
my
two
god,
years
I'm
after that,
crying.
they're going to win a championship. That's
Oh
what's going
my
to happen.
god,
Paige is
I
going to be
can't
a free
breathe.
agent. She's going to go with Sarah, and
I
then
can't
over
breathe. I
five
can't
years
breathe.
is a good window for them. Because what are we
So
talking about? Their roster sucks. I'm
they
sorry,
have a
I haven't
very
even been
heavy
paying that much attention, and it sucks.
they have a very heavy international squad. And then those players that they do have that are domestic players, Monique Billings, Kayla Thornton, Veronica Burton, Tiffany Hayes, Kate Martin. Here's the problem, or the challenge, I will say, with the Golden State Valkyries is that they have a lot of role players. Okay. So they just took a whole bunch of role players and said, hey, you guys are now going to be the team. We're going to sell your jerseys. We're going to put you on the posters. Right. But nobody who got put on this team averaged more than 10 points a game last year. So to your point, I mean, who's going to be the star? Who's going to, because it would be kind of ridiculous to expect that out of Tiffany Hayes, who is 35 years old and this is her 13th season and she actually retired last year. So, or at the beginning of last year. So it's like, okay, that's a lot to ask of her. Kate Martin, this is only her second year in the W. Can she be that emerging star? I'm not really sure. But what I will say is I did watch the preseason game with the Los Angeles Sparks and the Golden State Valkyries, and I would not sleep on them at all. I will say that Monique Billings came out, had a great showing. Kayla Thornton had a great showing. Veronica Burton had a great showing. And honestly and truly, those three might be poised to be this team's big three. I'm just saying. Now, granted, it's only been the preseason, but I will say I think all of these players are also hyper aware of the fact that they got to step it up. So I don't know. We're just going to have to see. And at the very least, you're a brand new team. You have no history. You have nothing. So just come out and just compete and just, again, kind of back to the Connecticut Sun, just be the team that nobody wants to play.
Listen, somebody's got to lose these games. And if I was putting my money on who was going to lose them.
But here's the thing. Their team, like Monique Billings had a great season last season. She just didn't get any permanent contract. She was kind of jumping around from hardship contract to hardship contract. But whenever she played on whatever team she was on, she had great games. She's a great player. She just never really had that chance to kind of be that marquee franchise player. She has that chance now. Same thing with Kayla Thornton. Like she was on the Liberty. She contributed to them winning that championship. Same thing with Kate Martin. She played with the Aces. That's probably the best team you could be a rookie on. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. Like, I don't think they're just going to be straight like booty cheeks, but it is going to be one of those things where it's like none of these players have played together before. There's going to be learning curves. Naomi Nakase, is that the first name of the coach? I don't know, but the coach is again another individual from the Becky Hammon coaching tree. This is her first season head coaching, so like there's going to be a learning curve for sure. But I also am not going to sit here and be like they're going to be trash.
I will sit here and say that. I think for me, this is textbook. We are building a team of role players for development, and then next year with the new CBA and when everyone is a free agent because all the smart players sign a 1 year contract, they're going to say, look at the role players we have. We're just one piece away. But typically when you're one piece away, you're probably not going to be that good. So like I don't think it's like if you're looking at a long-term strategy, I don't think it's awful, especially because like you can't get great players in the expansion draft, right? And so I think what they're betting on is we get these players, some of them young, who fill these sort of like, for lack of a better term, like everyman sort of skill sets. So you don't have like a huge hole. So if the best player that wants to come as a point guard, you can fit them in. If the best player that wants to come as a four, you can fit them in. Like you don't have huge holes, but you don't have like a dominant thing where you can turn away any player. So again, like I don't think it's an awful sort of setup. I know that this is something that doesn't always like. Yeah, I think planning for next year, it just feels like they plan for next year, and you also can't come out and say, "Well, we're planning for next year" when everyone's going to be a free
Yeah, of
agent.
course.
But I also don't think they're going to be good this year.
I think they'll be all right. I think they'll be all right. I don't think they're going to be amazing. But I also think they're going to find a way to surprise us because again, there's certain players on that team that I just don't fully count out as like being okay with losing all the time. You know what I mean? But of course, it's an expansion team. It's a new team. Many things are going to happen within these next couple of years to really solidify them in the league of like where they really are. But of course, power ranking wise, they're at the bottom because nobody's seen them play. Nobody knows what they're going to turn out to be. Moving on to a team that we are pretty sure we know where they're headed, and that is the Las Vegas Aces. I'm just going to say this one thing. Asia Wilson, Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, and Jewel Lloyd.
Next team, Los Angeles Sparks. Is that where we're going?
Yep. So we're moving on to the Los Angeles Sparks because let's just be for
Oh,
real.
I will just say, um, they didn't have the best year last year. So
By their standards, though, because they still had a good year.
I know, but like they didn't have the best year by their standards, and you have Asia Wilson who is not going to accept that. You have Becky Hammond who's not going to accept that, and then you just named the upgrades. Los Angeles Sparks. Was that where you're going? Who are you talking about
Moving right
next?
along to the Los Angeles Sparks. Oh my gosh, look, another team with a new head coach. So they're coming off of their first single digit win in the history of the franchise, which is single digit win season, excuse me. They only won 9 games last year. That's ghetto. So they went out and said, we're gonna do one of the biggest trades in WNBA history, and we're gonna get Kelsey Plum from the Los Angeles Ace. Los Angeles? Wow. From the Las Vegas Aces. The biggest thing here is how Kelsey Plum is going to mesh in with the team that they currently have. There has been a lot of additions and movements on the Sparks as well, but they are going to be returning Cam Brink hopefully as early as June from her ACL injury. Rakia Jackson obviously showed us exactly who she was and Unrivaled, a fantastic scorer at all levels, really, really feisty, can get in the paint, does what she needs to do. And then, of course, we also have other players who had great showings at Unrivaled, like Ray Burrell, Azare Stevens, Dearica Hamby. So I'm not too mad at this team at this point. Kelsey Plum and Dearica Hamby, of course, have played together before. They already have that chemistry that exists there. And then they finally, Jesus, I have been waiting my whole entire life for a team to finally fucking sign Odyssey Sims. And they signed her. They had her on a hardship contract last year. And the few of the games that they actually won, she was on the roster at that time. And then she moved over and was on a hardship contract in Dallas for a while. So I really felt like either Dallas or Los Angeles needed to sign her at this point. She made such an impact on both of those teams last year. So finally happy to see her actually signed and actually on the roster. She's a great distributor. She's a great scorer. Really, really feisty. Love her. I think she's over 30 at this point. Like she's kind of been in and out of the WNBA for the last few years. So I'm glad that she finally has her permanent spot on the roster. And then they drafted 9th overall Miss Sarah Ashley Barker, who, if you guys are unaware, she is the girl who scored 41 points in the game where it was Bama versus Maryland. Bama did end up losing that game, but she scored 41 points. So we're just going to leave it at that. And she's already looking really good with this roster. So at the very least, the Sparks are going to win more than 9 games.
Yeah. I think like injuries are never good for anyone, but I think them dealing with all of the injuries that they had was really great for Rakia and some of the other
Yeah.
young players. We'll see sort of how it all fits together, right? Again, not every team can win. Someone has to take these losses. They may be a team that's sort of a year away, depending on when Cam comes back and sort of how some of the thing fits. But I just think the best thing that happened was Rakia getting to be the primary ball handler and then immediately going to Unrivaled. That's going to open up so much for them if they use it correctly, where she was not like, if things went how they wanted it last year, they would have never unlocked that.
They
Like
would have
she
used
was
her
not going to
differently.
be that player because they didn't know that she could do that. And so I think
Yeah.
that opens up a lot for them.
Well, I will say, I do think that there were choices made last year as far as personnel goes. Like Rakia was showing what she could do, and then she wasn't playing or she wasn't starting, or they weren't putting her in the game in certain points where she could have been effective. So I'm excited for the coaching change in that particular context because I think this coach recognizes who Rakia is, and they will use her in a different way than she was used last year. Because a lot of people were irritated with the fact that they felt like she's coming in, she's scoring, and then you're sitting her down. What kind of sense does that make? Especially considering at the time the rest of the roster wasn't scoring. Like Ari McDonald might have gotten there every now and then and scored. You know, Kia Nurse when she was having a good day was scoring, but nobody was scoring, in my opinion, as well as Rakia was. My biggest concern with the Sparks is that they lost size. So during that trade with Jewel Lloyd and Kelsey Plum, they also lost Lee Guru, which is one of the only other 6'7" players in the league. She is now going to be on the Seattle Storm. So the only size they really have at this point is Azare and Cam. So I do worry about that as far as like how they're going to be able to compete because so many other teams are so big. I mean, we were just talking about Atlanta and how big they are. So anyways, speaking of big, actually This team is not big at all. Minnesota Lynx. They are, in my opinion, they are my favorite for the championship this year because they should have won last year. Sorry. They should have won last year. And so obviously they're returning the majority of their core. They probably had the least amount of change in the offseason out of every team. And they have the MVP, one of the MVP favorites in Napheesa Collier. And she has a chip on her shoulder for multiple reasons because she didn't get to the championship in her own damn league in rival just now. And she didn't win the MVP and she didn't win the championship last year. So to me, that's the perfect storm of a team that is ready to come in, smack some hoes up, and show y'all who they really are. Cheryl Reeve talks about all the time how she feels like Minnesota gets left out of the conversation a lot of the times when you're talking about championship contention. And I agree with her. We are talking about the Indiana fucking Fever contending for a championship over the Minnesota Lynx. I need everybody to be as serious as possible. The Minnesota Lynx, where you have one of the best scorers in Napheesa Collier and Kayla McBuckets. They have Kayla McBuckets. She was one of the best scorers in Unrivaled. Like, them two together on the same team. Then you got the mid-range master and Courtney Vandersloot and Courtney Williams Vandersloot. I just don't see how they lose. Personally, I just don't see how they lose. And I'm gonna go out on a limb. Well, Asia Wilson. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that they will 100% be in that championship game. And I don't think they're playing the Liberty for their next championship either.
Yeah, Asia Wilson.
They will be playing the Aces. Any thoughts about the Lynx? Period. Moving on to the Phoenix Mercury. My good God. This might be the team that has experienced the most change. Obviously, they had the legendary Diana Taurasi hang up her jersey and say that last year was her last year. And then they lost BG as well. So this is a whole new team, whole new vibe. They are retaining their head coach from last year. And they brought in Satu Sabli, Alyssa Thomas, and Kalani Brown and a couple other players as well. So, and then of course they have Kalia Copper, and it seems like this is going to be a good squad on paper. My only issue is that all the people who I just mentioned, except for Kalani Brown, are all incredibly ball dominant. So I'm trying to figure out who the central star is going to be. Like, who are they going to be running their offense through? Because realistically, you can run your offense through all of the people who I just mentioned. So that's going to be something that's really, really interesting. And a lot of people have already been criticizing their head coach for being a coach who does not believe in the mid-range. And he believes in living and dying by the three, which I am, as my basketball philosophy is that is stupid. So whatever, that's what he wants to do. And all these people who I mentioned are not like 3-point masters. So I'm just trying to figure out where their offense is going to come from just in general. But they're playing and they're here. So we'll see.
Yeah, this feels like the Liberty of a couple years ago where it's going to take some time.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to the last team in the West, and that is the Seattle Storm. They are officially moving into a new era of the Seattle Storm. They have lost their trio that won them the championships a couple years ago in Stewie, Stu Bird, and Jewel Lloyd. And so this is kind of their new era. Those emerging stars really looking like Skylar Diggins. Okay. And Nneka Ogwumike as the McNamara. They get a full season with Gabby Williams. As many of you are unaware, Gabby Williams decided to opt out of the WNBA season last year to play for France because it was an Olympic year. And the WNBA has I can never think of the term, has a priority clause basically where if you play overseas, you have to report by a certain period in order to play. And so Gabby said, F y'all, I don't care. I'm going to go serve and represent my country. So now we get her back for a full season. They acquired Alicia Clark, who was a previous Sixth Woman of the Year awardee. She played on the Aces when they won both of their championships. And then, of course, they got probably one of the biggest names in the WNBA draft besides Paige Bueckers in Dominique Malonga. So the team looks really, really good. I'm excited about it. I'm sure I'm missing some of the guards that they have. Obviously, they do not have why can't I think of her name? She came from UConn last year. Why can't I think of her name? She tore her ACL overseas, so we don't have her. I don't know why I can't think of her name. I don't know why, I know her name. I don't know why I can't think of her name. But they lost her. Who?
The guard?
Yes.
Nika?
She's from UConn.
Nika Mule.
They lost. They still don't have Nika Mule because she did tear her ACL like in her first or second game overseas, which was really unfortunate. And they have Katie Lou Samuelson, who had a great season on arrival, but she also suffered an ACL injury during practice. So down with ACLs, y'all. Like, I have never heard of a good thing that an ACL has done yet, but unfortunately, they are going to be kind of starting the season off a little handicapped. But we'll see. They're probably the biggest team in the league at this point because, again, like I said, they have Lee Yuru and then now Dominic Malonga, Neko Gomoke, and Ezzy. So,
This is going to be a tough year. Uh, I mean, like, it's funny because I said this last year about football. Like, someone has to lose the games, and it
yeah.
became sort of like my mantra. And I didn't expect that to carry over to this, but it is sort of true, right? Last year, with football, there were so many top 10 games, top 5 matchups, all of these things, and something that we had never necessarily had before. And so it's like, I mean, someone has to lose the games. Like, we have so many 1 versus 2 matchups and things, and when you go through these teams, even if some of them it's rose colored glasses or whatever, like, first of all, the WNBA is always competitive because there's 5 people on each roster, right? So it's all
Yes.
right, but also the way some of the talent was spread and some of these things, someone's got to lose. And in my opinion, the only team that is for sure probably going to lose is Connecticut. We disagree on the Valkyrie, so it's just sort of like,
Oh,
maybe,
they're going to be losing too. I just don't
yeah,
think they're
maybe
going to lose as
Washington's
much.
not there yet, right? But even the teams that were sort of bad last year, like the Fever and the Sky, got better, right? Dallas should be better. You still have New York. You have the Aces who got better. It's just somebody's gonna lose. I don't know who it's gonna be, but it should be a good season.
It'll be really, really fun. Hopefully, part of the CBA or part of hopefully somebody in the damn front office of the WNBA is talking about roster extensions because we need more than 12 spots on these damn rosters. I'm so sorry. You cannot convince me that we don't need at least 14 or 15 spots on these rosters. At the very least, because of injury, right? There were so
Mhm.
many damn hardship contracts last year. And if you guys don't know, hardship contracts are 10-day contracts that they sign with players that are basically like adjacent to the W, like, athletes unlimited players or players who've been in the W before, things like that. Odyssey Sims is somebody who I've mentioned, Monique Billings, those individuals who like they're good enough to play in the W, but they may not have had those permanent contracts. They'll sign them for 10 days because somebody is injured. And so at the very least, we should extend the rosters just because of that. I appreciate that the WNBA is expanding, with teams, right? So coming into the next season, there's going to be the Toronto Tempo team, which they've already announced their name, and then there's going to be this nameless Portland team that they haven't told us any details about yet. Hopefully, the Golden State Valkyries are a case study and a way to expand because they sold 10,000 season tickets, which has never been done for any WNBA team. And there's a real appetite in the cities that I just mentioned for WNBA basketball. So I'm glad they're expanding in that way, but we really need to expand these rosters. Like,
Yeah,
we
yeah. I
really
think
need to expand these rosters.
Yeah, I think it sort of comes full circle. That's one of the things that I was talking about, where I sort of hope they make all these rule changes at once. Bring in the 4 more teams or whatever, expand the rosters, get to a good number of games, right? Well, I doubt it's going to be 44, right? Get to that final number of games, get to that final number of playoff teams, and sort of thing, and sort of sit with it for a couple of years. So that is definitely one of the things that needs to happen. The thing that I also needs to happen that I don't think is going to happen for a while, just because I don't think it's a priority, is they need to lower the college age from 4 years to
Oh,
3.
yeah. Yeah.
But you can't do that until you expand the teams
We
in
ain't
the
got no roster
roster.
spots.
There's
Right.
a lot of things that are sort of going on that hopefully they adjust. But I mean, I think I we did a thorough preview. I think
Yes.
we'll have more next week because we can get to the players to watch and the top matchups and some other sort of stuff next week as the season begins. But do you have any sort of final W thoughts that you want to?
I mean, pretty much. I mean, we're gonna be talking about it throughout the season. I'm really excited. I'm happy to be in a space where everybody else is as excited about the W as I am because, of course, been watching it for a while. But it's exciting to see everybody kind of juiced up over it, and it getting the attention that it deserves, and the national broadcast and things like that. The biggest issue that I'm going to continue to have, and I will always scream about, is the fact that, as I've mentioned, I am watching the NBA currently, and I have not seen not one commercial about the WNBA season starting in 5 days. And this is a league that owns that league. So you would think, in order to help their bottom line, they would be promoting that league because it's growing and it has more viewership than they do.
That's what you get for thinking.
Not to crash out, but I'm just saying, like, Asia just dropped a shoe. You should be playing her commercial. Angel Reese just dropped a collection of Reebok. You should be playing her commercials. You should be playing whatever commercial that Caitlin Clark is in, because I know she's in a couple of them. She's got a State Farm commercial. She's got a Gatorade commercial. She's got all these other. You're telling me that y'all don't have the ability at all to promote your sister league. They're not even they don't talk about it on the broadcast about, hey, here's what's coming up. And these games are going to be on ESPN and ABC. Like, it's not like they're promoting games that you can't access. The first few games of the WNBA are going to be on ESPN. And the finals for the NBA is on ESPN or ABC or whatever. They're all the same. You telling me that y'all don't have a 2-minute PA read for that? I just don't understand it. Like, this is a basketball ecosystem, and it's supposed to be a positive feedback loop where you guys are both feeding off of one another, because there would be the expectation for the women's side to promote the NBA. So I don't know what that's about. But anyways, that's my only thought, is the WNBA needs to be promoted by the league that owns them.
That is a radical concept that you're throwing out there.
Really, men should be owning women anyways, but let me stop. Go ahead.
Entry level marketing, radical concepts that you're throwing. I think it's going to be a good season. The W is going to be fun. We will be talking about it for sure. I think, especially for the first month or so, we'll probably get into it a lot, and then we will have to balance it with our preview content, which will be coming because time is a flat circle and we're already midway into May.
Can we not be existential today? That was existential as hell.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Which doesn't make sense at all. But yeah, no, I think that's it. So, we're going to wrap up the show as we always do with our 2-minute warning. I will go first because it is on sort of the basketball theme, and also give you a break after that thorough preview. So this is something that we didn't put in the news, and shout out to us for getting to put it in the news, because then I could use it as my 2-minute warning.
You're welcome. This was on purpose.
Legend, of course it was. The absolute legend, Sue Bird, has been named as the managing director of the U.S. women's basketball team.
Period.
She is filling the same role that Grant Hill is filling for the men's side, meaning that she is the final decision maker. For those of you who don't know, because whatever, the men's side for X number of years has had a sort of managing director. The women's was still by committee. So, X number of people would watch the games and would decide.
Coaches and other people.
They would invite people to the camps and sort of stuff. And it's not that they're entirely getting rid of that, but Sue Bird is going to have, this sort of power. She's going to she's going to determine who gets invites to camps. She's going to determine who gets on the team. She's going to build this. And this is very important on the women's side, because the women's side is going through what the men's side went through a couple of years ago and is very aggressively going to go into, and that the stars are aging. And so you don't know how many more Olympics that they have. So if you want to keep up the American dominance, which you do, because the only time to be proud to be an American is during the Olympics and the World Cup. You want to keep up that dominance. You need to find a way to mix in your Caitlins, your Paiges, your Leah Bostons, your Arike, like these players who are under 30 who haven't gotten the time because you had your Sue Birds and your Dianas and things like that, and sort of try to intermix them in. So that they're getting the experience, they're getting to play with these players and things like that. And that is going to be a sort of a heavy lift, because we're coming again at this time that we keep talking about, where you have this infusion of talent, but you're also balancing eras and things like that. And so I think that this is a great time for them to be doing that and for them to let someone who actually knows basketball pick. Uh, and this is not a women's team because the women's team is super dominant. So it's not like they were picking negatively, but I just assume in most of these cases with the committees, they don't actually watch basketball. Sue is a freaking legend. She's very smart. She has a good relationship with these players. She also has a good relationship with other players who she's going to lean on. She has a good relationship with Grant Hill. She said that he essentially convinced her into taking the role. And so I just think that that is something that is exciting, and we'll see where that goes, especially as we get into this cycle of some of these star players retiring or just no longer wanting to do the Olympics and in this sort of infusion of talent.
Period. Love it. I did see that news and I was very, very excited. I feel like there's nobody better for that role other than Sue Bird. So I'm excited to see how that will play out. My 2 minute warning to get us out of here, because we've been here for almost an hour and a half, is that you guys should also be wishing me happy Mother's Day, because I too am a mother. I have adopted a cat. Her name is Juanita. She is so cute. She is so sweet. Here she is, my little baby. She is 17 years old, okay? And we love to see it. She, unfortunately, her previous owner passed away and they were looking for someone to rehome her with. So I took her in and I've had her for a week and I love her so much. And yes, I'm very excited about my new journey into ownership of a pet. I have had a cat before, so this is not my first rodeo, but I'm very excited about having a young, spry old lady. Yes, that was supposed to be a contradiction. But yeah, happy Mother's Day to all of the pet parents out there.
Yeah, I'm glad you did that. I don't believe in pet parents. As always, thank you for
First of all, this is
listening.
parenthood, okay?
Yeah, okay. Thank you all for listening to the show. Hopefully, some of you followed us from our last home. Hopefully, some of you are new. Again, you can follow the show on and watch and see our beautiful faces on YouTube at Get Defensive Sports Network. You can see us on Instagram at Get Defensive Sports Network, and you can see us on
The
TikTok at
TikTok,
GD Sports Network.
period.
We are going to be everywhere. We have much better access to social media and things like that now, and so you will see us. You will see our clips. You will see our faces, and we will catch you next week.